Well, now it's time for the President's report, and without further delay, we'll get right into that. Once again, I want to thank all of you for being here. Greetings, tribal leaders, NCAI members, representatives of Congress and the administration, the governor, the mayor, and friends of NCAI. I thank you for being here. I'm honored to be here with you. Welcome to the 2018 NCAI Convention, the 75th anniversary of the National Congress of American Indians. I first want to acknowledge the hard work of our local planning committee, led by the Great Plains and Southwest regions, in helping to make this annual convention, our 75th, a reality. I also want to thank the NCAI staff for their long days of work, designing and preparing this week's agenda. Judging from the impressive General Assembly speakers, the breakout sessions, and the agenda for the whole week, I think this may be the best ever. I think we ought to honor them with a round of applause. Thank them for their hard work. I also want to salute the National Congress of American Indians and the tribal leaders that make this organization a reality. I want to thank the members of the organization, the officers, past and present. Those officers, those tribal leaders have come together yearly, annually, in meetings after meetings to make not just this week, but to forge unified pathways forward for Indian country. If you're a former president of NCAI, would you please stand to be recognized? Former presidents. I know Ron Allen and Joe Garcia. I know that there are others at the convention. I saw earlier Sue Maston. Is Tex Hall here? Brian Clattersby. If you're here, Veronica Murdoch. Any other past officers, thank you so much for your service. How about other officers? If you are a former officer or served on the executive committee at any time, would you please stand to be recognized? People like Ernie Stevens, Jr., I don't know if he's here or not. I think he was a bouncer or first vice president or something. But thank you for your service. And finally, I want to recognize the tribal leaders in the auditorium. I know that some of the tribal leaders from my tribe are here. I see the Speaker of our legislature here. If you're a current or former tribal leader, or if you hold or have held any of the executive committee positions on NCAI, would you please stand and be recognized? Tribal leaders, this is your convention. Wow. Thank you for such a great turnout. NCAI stands here together as one this week, 3/4 of a century after its founders came together in this very city to build an organization that could channel and express Indian country's united voice to the federal government, the American public, Congress, and anyone else that would listen about our rightful place as this country's first Americans, about our inherent rights as sovereign governments, our issues, our priorities, and our dreams for a better future for our people. 75 years later, NCAI stands here together as one, a striking testament to the tenacity, resilience, the values and foresight that our tribal ancestors and past leaders and this organization's founders exemplified. This organization stands here as one today because of its perseverance. For the last 7.5 decades, NCAI has encountered every conceivable challenge: political, organizational, and financial. Many times in our storied past, we've been counted down, but never out. In 1945, Internal divisions within NCAI's leadership threatened to derail the organization right out of the gate. And in the 1950s, NCAI contended with the crisis in Indian country known as termination. NCAI stood firm and helped to lessen the depth of the impacts of this horrible policy and its effects on Indian country. In the 1980s, financial issues had NCAI on the brink of collapse and closing its doors. In every instance, we worked through our differences. We rallied together. We dug down deep, and we overcame the challenge before us. And we emerged from each experience stronger and wiser than ever before. We confront such a challenge today. As you know, NCAI has been in the news lately, and not for the best of reasons. Many of you are concerned, and rightfully so, about the recent published accounts that you've seen. I also understand your frustration about NCAI's inability to legally share extensive details about confidential personnel matters or specific allegations circulated in the media. I want to assure our membership, our staff, our partners, and Indian country public that NCAI is taking this situation very seriously. On October 11th, I sent a letter to NCAI members explaining to the extent that I'm legally able to the actions that we've taken thus far to address the situation at every point along the way. I want to do the same with you today, face to face, to clear the air. Let's stop all the gossip. Let's answer those questions, the speculation, the innuendos, and all those things that are circulated there that do harm to not only this organization, to American Indians across the country. Those who think that this is helpful, you're wrong. It's not helpful. You may get some satisfaction out of it personally, but I assure you that NCAI takes this very seriously, and we continue to work towards a final solution on this. First, earlier this year, NCAI did hire an external expert to review its harassment policies and the procedures for handling complaints, and we implemented all recommended updates. We also held organization-wide trainings on NCAI's harassment and complaint policies and the responsibilities of staff, supervisors, and executive committee members under those policies. And we required all staff supervisors to attend supervisory training. Next, the executive committee established an ad hoc committee composed of several of its members, tribal leaders, to review how this organization has previously addressed allegations of misconduct. The ad hoc committee's work is underway, and on Saturday, the executive committee accepted the recommendation of the ad hoc committee and placed the executive director on administrative leave pending the completion of the ad hoc committee's review and its recommendations. The executive committee also accepted a motion to add items identified in draft resolutions Denver 18-023 and Denver 18-051 to the charge of the ad hoc committee, and authorize the ad hoc committee to select a qualified external legal expert to assist in the completion of its review. We also hired an outside firm to perform an audit of NCAI's workplace culture, which includes interviews with staff and other stakeholders to assess the current work climate at NCAI and make recommendations. That audit is underway, it's in the process, and it should be completed in the next 2 to 3 weeks. NCAI is committed to implementing without delay the recommendations that these two measures put forward, but we will not stop there. We've also engaged an HR consultant to review our processes, train our staff, and step in should a need arise for future external HR reviews. And we've hired an outside expert to train several staff and executive committee members on best practices for conducting workplace misconduct investigations. This is scheduled. It's on the calendar of those committee members, and it will be completed within the next 2 to 3 weeks. I want you to know that NCAI took many of these steps before the first media report surfaced, and some have evolved based on the concerns and suggestions and recommendations that you've shared with us. We're doing everything possible to strengthen our commitment to our employees, to provide them a safe, supportive workplace. I submit to you and everyone who will watch, hear, listen, see, or read this speech that NCAI does not condone harassment of any kind in the workplace. Nor have we, nor will we tolerate it in any form. We will take action when it occurs in the future, just like we did in the situation at hand. A key part of maintaining a positive, healthy workplace is providing our employees a mechanism to bring workplace issues to our attention without fear that their concerns will be shared by others, will be shared in the media or the public or other outside sources without their knowledge or their permission. While others have chosen to violate that standard, NCAI must uphold it. We must protect our employees' privacy and shield the organization from unnecessary liability. This is the right thing to do legally, but more important, it's the right thing to do ethically. We will respect the privacy of our staff, even in the face of considerable pressure to do otherwise. We value our employees and will continue to fulfill our responsibilities to them. When I was elected, I ran on a campaign of bringing results to Indian country through NCAI. That's part of who I am. That pledge, and I feel confident that that pledge is not only just a statement. This current situation is no different. NCAI will resolve these issues through this process, and NCAI will emerge from it stronger than before. I thank you for giving me your time and ask for patience as we address these issues in a caring and responsible, purposeful manner. Indian country deserves a strong NCAI. That's what they have, and that's what they'll have in the future. We will continue to provide that. This work that we're doing, this is work that must be done together. Our power to meet the challenges rests, as it always has, in our unity, in our common purpose, in our collective action. I mentioned the employees, our staff. NCAI can't accomplish anything without the staff that makes it go. You, tribal leaders, you're the guiding light of NCAI. You set the direction. The staff is NCAI's backbone. They enact your collective will. They fight tirelessly for tribal sovereignty behind the scenes every single day. And they don't do it for money or professional prestige or grandstanding or jumping in front of a camera at the very first opportunity. They do it because they have chosen to commit their careers, their lives, to serving Indian country. As NCAI president, I have the privilege, and I've had it for 2 previous terms, of seeing NCAI staff in action. I see their dedication firsthand. I see the long, mentally taxing hours they work and the many sacrifices they make on our behalf. Working at NCAI is not for everybody. Don't get me wrong. It takes a special kind of person to dedicate oneself to the thankless, unforgiving grind of advocating for the priorities of tribal nations in Washington, D.C. every day. Often far away from their families, their homelands, and their cultures. Sometimes they're lonely, they're homesick, but they do it anyway. It's a staff that helps create NCAI's unparalleled value in supporting our common struggle to protect and advance the inherent sovereign rights of tribal governments and to hold the federal government accountable to its trust and treaty obligations. I want to take this moment to thank them personally because I believe in them. So NCAI staff, if you're in the room, please stand or wave your hand so that we can recognize you. As we work through and beyond our current challenge, and we will, it does provide us a fresh opportunity to refocus and look at a deeper, closer look at the value that NCAI brings. Because today, just as it has been for the past 75 years, NCAI is making extraordinary difference in so many ways. Just think about all that NCAI has accomplished just in the past 10 years, just in the past decade. For example, the White House Tribal Nations Summit that we haven't had in a couple of years, the Indian Health Care Improvement Act, the Tribal Law and Order Act, the HART Act, the Stafford Act amendments, the VAWA, Special Tribal Criminal Jurisdiction provisions, and in fact, we got some action to take care of that on VAWA today. The Indian Child Welfare Act regulations, the Indian Employment Training and Related Services Consolidation Act, better known as the 477 Act, the Tribal Set-Aside for Victims of Crime Act funding. NCAI didn't make these things happen just by itself. It took the collective work of tribal nations, tribal leaders, citizens, and partners. They all played a key role in getting this done. But NCAI was instrumental in getting them on the playing field and getting them across the finish line. We still have a lot of work to do, but we must remember the value and from where that value flows, especially as we navigate our collective path forward. True to the resilience and focus of NCAI, we've demonstrated time and again in the past that we must not allow today's challenge to distract or derail us from carrying out NCAI's enduring four-pronged mission of service with greater conviction and force than ever before. And I quote those: protecting and enhancing our treaty and sovereign rights, securing our traditional laws, cultures, and ways of life for our descendants, promoting a common understanding of the rightful place of tribal nations in the family of American governments, and improving the quality of life for Native communities and peoples. The political challenges we face are grave, and the work needed to meet those challenges is immense. We must contend with policymakers at all levels of governments as well as our neighbors, many who are encouraged by the current climate to launch fresh attacks on our unique political status as sovereign governments, our cultures, and our economies. We'll continue to meet those challenges, and we'll confront those challenges as we see them. I know that you're aware of the challenge that the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe is facing today. I see Chairman Cromwell, there he is. NCAI has made it clear that we strongly oppose the actions by the Department of the Interior. We stand united with the Mashpee people in the face of these attacks on their sovereignty. This has the potential to affect many tribes across the country. We desperately need a Carcieri fix by Congress to protect lands that rightfully belong to tribal nations. We'll continue to work with you, Mr. Chairman. We need to defend the Indian Child Welfare Act against mounting assaults. We must redouble our efforts to keep anti-sovereignty judges from rising up through the federal judicial ranks. We must ensure our people's access to the ballot box and turn them out to vote. You're aware of the situation that's going on across the country. The list goes on and on. There are many, many challenges that we face. So we must remain united as strong tribal nations that we are. The opioid epidemic is devastating communities across the country, and especially in Indian country. NCAI is working hard with Congress and NIHB and some of our other partners to make sure that Congress honors its treaty and trust obligations by providing tribal governments the same resources as it does states to address this problem in their communities. One of the most pressing issues we face continues with the CMS Medicaid situation. NCAI is working with partners like NIHB and many others to defend our unique political status as tribal nations. We must continue to push forward in educating others beyond Indian country and reach the general public and Congress. History teaches us that Indian country cannot afford for us to relinquish any of our power, anything that we've accomplished over the past 75 years. We must not relinquish that and go our own ways. We must not fight with one another when we should be working arm in arm to fight the fights that our communities, our elders, our families, our youth, and our generations yet to come need us to fight for them as one. We know what happens when we each go it alone. Our founders knew it all too well, which is why they created NCAI to begin with. Only by standing together and working together as a united front can we once again push back that which threatens what we hold dear, our children, our lands, and our sovereignty. Protecting these things and securing our future is bigger than any one of us alone. So I ask of you today, reaffirm your commitment to one another. Reaffirm your commitment to this collective body. Reaffirm your commitment to Indian country so that you can inform and guide NCAI so that it becomes even stronger, wiser, and more impactful than ever before, so that it can help Indian country meet the challenges it faces, not just today, but 75 years in the future. I know that we're going to have a great convention. I know that it's already underway. We began this over the weekend. Our youth are meeting here today. Get out, visit with them, see them. Let's be that example to them that they deserve. They are looking at us. Indian country's looking at us today. And I know that there are people out there who are looking through other different lenses at us and what we do collectively as one body. I want you to know that Indian country is as strong as ever before. We will remain strong. We will remain united as one. Good luck, and know that NCAI will always be there to defend tribal sovereignty and advance Indian country's priorities. God bless you and God bless Indian country.